Welcome back, my people. This is the road to CA. It's yours, it's mine, it's our conversation where we look back, we look within, and we look beyond, all in the hopes that it will not end, but that it will begin in CASA. Today, we are joined with someone whom I've learned is a man of responsibility. We had an interesting conversation earlier that hopefully will continue. But he's a man who's learned the hard way, the good way, that we have a responsibility, and someone who's honoring that responsibility. He's the leader. He's a leader in House CA. He's currently the treasurer. He's a Marshall Scholarship holder, and he is, above all else, a child of God, a man of God. I'm joined with Sthabiso Phosile. Tubbs, how are you, brother?
No, I'm good, man. Thank you for having me. Eh?
It is just so interesting getting these documents of people. So I send that I send like a pre-preparation document to get to know people. Man, you've got quite a story that sets you up in a way that a lot of people don't have in terms of opportunity. Tell us a bit about what brought you here into the CA? Your background, your upbringing, and your journey till now.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very lovely question. So, looking back, actually growing up, I come from a community where, unemployment is very, very high, So growing up, I was like, how can I create value? How can I make an impact to the society, So I look at the various opportunities available to me, and I was like, no, actually the best way is to be an entrepreneur. But how does one become an entrepreneur? So that's where the journey began, having to actually choose, the right profession that's going to allow me into actually drive myself into those spaces, So growing up, I looked into the CA designation, and that's what popped up to me. Having to interact with people, from industry, and all of that, it really, really guided me in terms of the best way that could lead me into being like a successful entrepreneur, having all the expertise and actually getting to meet the right people, because networking is very important. Actually creating that platform was being a chartered accountant. So that love grew up, from that time in grade 9 where I had to choose my subject choices. I was like, okay, there has to be accounting. There has to be mathematics, because that's how I can get into CASA. So that's when the journey began. And I was like, CASA, it's what I want to do, because the end goal is to be an entrepreneur.
So grade 9, that's when the lights started to flicker. Who got you there? So obviously now, logically, it makes sense. You want to be an entrepreneur. CA. Who got you there? Who was the voice?
That is a very good question. So it's actually my accounting teacher, So I was really good at, we had EMS in grade 8, 9, So my accounting teacher was like, okay, why not do accounting since you're good at it, So that's where the idea actually sparked, in terms of I was good in my management studies, So from there onwards, I was like, I'm going with accounting.
It's interesting how she said, or he said, he or she? He said, accounting, you're good at it, go there. How different is it accounting from high school to now?
Brother, I'll be honest. It is very different, I feel like in high school, it was more like you could study a lot of papers and write and pass well. So there wasn't a lot of thinking into it. It was more like structured, parrot learning, But when you get to varsity, it's more like to look at the thinking, the critical thinking, these real life scenarios, and you have to apply the accounting. So I feel like that's more of a mismatch of a gap between accounting and high school. So level of thinking and actually approaching, problems and all of that. So in varsity, it's more in-depth, high level, and a lot of critical thinking.
It's insane how only when you're in, you start to see the value of thinking. It's insane how you'll see like a little learning outcome that the varsity will even say you're gonna achieve. He's able to process information. He can read multiple sources and make a judgment. Like, these are such abstract things. But if you think about it in the context of like IAS 38, intangible assets, like the ability to see, okay, this thing is, we're dealing with, I don't know, an environmental impact assessment, EIA. That's something that I saw recently in project finance that you'll do an assessment of like an area, and you'll get some environmental experts to say, is this area fit for this project that we want to do? Maybe it's going to be a mine or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that an intangible asset? How do we define whether that's an intangible asset or not? We have to look at those 6 criteria, whether it's technically feasible, whether it's, intention is there to complete it, there's ability to sell, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
You have to think. It's insane. Now, zoning into your varsity journey, what have been some of those things that pop up to say, I wish I knew this when I was in first year, second year, and beyond? Like, what are some of those lessons that you could say, I wish I knew this now?
Yeah, that's kind of a deep one, but for me, as most of the listeners as well, it's a matter of we come from a system, we come from high school, and we were all high achievers, I like to believe, because getting into this degree as well, it requires like high marks, so something I wish that I had knew earlier from first year is actually being humble enough to ask for help, because in first year I used to struggle with that, because in high school I used to figure things out myself. Yes, I'll have my teachers, but I used to figure things out. Things used to make sense. But when I got to varsity, and I still had that mentality that, smart people figure things out, and so I struggled with asking for help, especially like first semester, because I was trying to figure things out myself, and that didn't really work well for me, because I was in a place where this dark hole where, I was struggling, a lot with the content, the academics, and all of that. So what I would say is, reach out as early as possible. In this journey, you can't do it alone. What I mean by that, you need your lecturers, you need your tutors, you need that environment, that family, to have like friends, people who can relate to you, because, there are days where you're not going to feel like doing it. You need that person who's going to keep you accountable, So for me, that's very, very important. And more to that, I'd say, I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's
reaching out. I can attest to that. So when I failed last year, the biggest operational reason, so I've spoken at length about how really it was because I didn't know why I was here.
Yeah.
But if you think about like the nitty-gritty tactical stuff, like what did I not do? I didn't ask for help, not once. I didn't consult. I didn't have friends that I would study with ever. Not that I think you necessarily need that. You just need a support structure. Like people that you'll ask things. You don't have to like study with them every day. But I didn't have anyone that I was looking to. I even have a brother who's now almost a CA. He's eligible.
Wow.
Like, I have a mother who's an accountant. I didn't ask them for help, dude. It was insane. So I can attest to the fact that reaching out will be one of the highest leverage things
Definitely.
you can do.
Definitely. I
Reaching
totally agree to that.
Dude, you have quite the illustrious background of awards and kind of you have a trail of excellence, which some people do have up till now. Obviously academic excellence, but I see you going above and beyond. What motivates you to go above and beyond? Because we have this course that's already enough. It's already enough, if not more than enough. What is the reason you're going beyond that?
So with that, it's a matter of, if we're being honest, the workplace out there is very, very competitive. Everyone has the marks, and so what can you do to stand out. It's a matter of standing out, so having to speak to people in practice, nowadays companies look at the overall of a person, they don't really look at academics, are you a leader? Are you a people's person? Can you talk to people? Do you have soft skills? Are you interested, in the industry and all of that? So it's a matter of me doing things that are going to allow me, to actually learn more about what's going on outside there and actually, be one of the best candidates, because if you look at the professions that I want to branch into, they don't take a lot of people each year. It's more like less than 15 people across the country. So what can I do to put myself in the best position, And I would really, really advise that in terms of, we are not only our academics, let's do other stuff, try and have it, I could use the word be overall, do other stuff, get involved in leadership positions, get involved in volunteering, also the marks, that's important, like make sure that you're passing well enough, and all of that, because if we're being honest, it's very competitive out there, and what's the best way that you can ensure that, you're one of the select few that actually make it into whatever profession that you aspire to get yourself into?
And I love what you just said. It started to my brain. So I like language. I like to think about how does this word work? And me and my brother, we like go back and forth. I'm like, what's the origins of that word? Does that even make sense? So we do that a lot. You said be overall, right? And I started to immediately think, like when you're that rounded, more general person, when you're overall, you're overall.
Yeah. I like that.
You become
like that.
Someone in this age of quote unquote specialization that can connect the dots.
Yeah.
That's what you do when you're a CA. You're not just a specialist in tax, not just a specialist in financial management. You're not just in this or just you do all of them so that you have a much more rounded perspective.
Yeah.
Overall, you know more, and therefore you can leverage more of what's around you. And it's nice that you're in entrepreneurship, because I think entrepreneurs need to do that.
Yeah.
They need to do that a lot.
Yes.
You were gonna tell me earlier about some consulting initiative or society. You're interested in investment banking. I think it'll be really valuable for people who want to get into it to know a little bit of what you're doing. Because I think before I knew about top training outside public practice, training in business, I was sort of confined to like audit in my mind.
Same, eh?
Can you tell us a bit about that you're pursuing on the side there, that consulting, investment banking side of you?
Okay, so let me just start with the history, So just like yourself, I was also like audit orientated, because that's what I knew from first year, So I was fortunate enough to be signed from first year, but I'm not going to mention the company. And then, so this entire time from first year, I thought audit is the way, but as I went up the years and starting doing like the actual modules, like your financial management, your auditing, accounting and tax, that's where I started actually seeing, look, who am I, and what can I leverage on these modules to get me to my goal, So I had to evaluate my why, because my why, it's a matter of, yes, it is entrepreneurship, but it was through audit, in terms of that's the information I had available at that time, but having to grow up and talk to people and engage in such conversations, it allowed me to actually see that the best way, to help me in my entrepreneurship journey, make sure that I have like a lot of leverage is through consulting, so that's where consulting comes in. So consulting, it's a profession of problem solving, so it's like, they have clients, which they provide solutions to in terms of like executives, so from, strategy, helping a startup, scale up and all of that. And that kind of thinking, that kind of work, it's actually the definition of entrepreneurship, that level of thinking. So that's where I came to a decision to be like, no, actually, the best way to get to my goal is through consulting. And this comes to a point where, which I'm trying to make here as well, that it's okay if your goals change over time, because as you gain access to new information, your why, it's going to change over time, and that's okay. So be open to change. And that's who you are. You got to be open to change. There are going to be factors that are going to lead to you, changing what you actually thought you wanted to do and actually doing something else, With investment banking as well, so I've always loved banking, growing up. So it's also like another profession which I'm really interested into. And in terms of, corporate finance in general, mergers and acquisition, all that idea. So I've loved that, I do a lot of research on it as well. So it's a matter of, I've learned that I'm more prone in terms of that industry of things, not like I still don't mind audit, but me as a person having had to evaluate who I am, consulting, it's a profession that's going to actually, lead me towards my overall, goal of being an entrepreneur, and I can leverage a lot on that.
There's always that goal that we do the things for. There's that goal that we are studying for. There's that goal that we may be working for. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's a 21st century thing. Obviously, like, we're just blips in this huge expanse of time. But we always do. I don't know if it's human nature thing, but we do things for nothing. For nothing, because you could literally just say, okay, why am I doing this? And then you might not do it. Oh, why am I doing this? Okay, it's for this. And then you get more result.
Yeah.
You push through. And it aligning with your goal of entrepreneurship just makes sense. Just makes sense, Stubbs, just as a closing word, what would you say to first year you right now?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'd say be more open to making mistakes, because first year me, I was more of a perfectionist, I wanted everything to go according to plan, I was afraid of failure, so it's a matter of embrace the failure, it's okay to fail as long as you learn from it, so be more open to also experience, because in first year, I was a lot in my books, so I wish that I was more, prone to actually experiencing other things, because I love sports, playing more sports, joining more, leadership positions, or just doing like a lot of like other things and being more open, to learning a lot. And yeah, man, a matter of believing yourself. I wish I believed in myself more. I had more confidence, and I really understood that what mattered is what I thought about myself, not external, circumstances. Yes, it's a matter of what really matters is how you perceive yourself as a person. If you're happy with yourself, as long as you're not hurting other people, that is really, really something I wish that, because I really, was more of a kind of a people pleaser as well. I really cared about other people's opinion of me, But I was like, no, man, what's important is as long as you're happy with yourself and the opinion that you have about yourself, for me, that's important. Be more self-proclaimed, if I may put it. And yeah, that's just it,
First year Stubbs. Embrace mistakes. Be more open to experience. And be yourself. It's all right. Be yourself. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. Thank you for tuning in. You may not have already done this, but please, follow this if you are listening. Hope that it does not end, but that it begins in CASA. Thank you, Stubbs. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, brother. Thank you for having me.